parents raised my rent to support my sister's loser BF. So I left, and now, I never thought my parents would choose my sister's unemployed, lazy boyfriend over their own son. But here we are. It all started when I got a job after college and moved back home to save money. My plan was to stay for a year, stack up my savings, and move out when I had enough for a down payment on my own place. At first, everything was fine. I was paying my parents a fair amount for rent, $500 a month, which included utilities and food. It was a great deal, and I appreciated having the safety net while I worked toward my goal. Then, my younger sister, Mia, brought her boyfriend, Jason, into the picture. Jason was, well, let's just say, the guy had never held a job for more than 3 months. He was always getting fired or quitting because he didn't feel respected. He was the type who thought working a 9 to 5 was for corporate slaves, but also had no ambition to start anything of his own. Mia was head over heels for him, though, and when his lease was up on his apartment, she begged my parents to let him move in, rent-free. At first, I wasn't too concerned. I figured my parents would give him a time limit to get a job and start paying his share. But weeks turned into months, and Jason did nothing but sit around, play video games, and mooch off my parents' generosity. Then, one day, my mom and dad dropped the bombshell on me. They were raising my rent from $500 to $1,200. I was shocked. I sat at the dinner table, staring at my parents like they'd lost their minds. Wait, what? I asked, trying to process what I just heard. Why are you raising my rent? My mom sighed, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Your father and I crunched the numbers, and with food, utilities, and everything else, we realized you need to contribute more. I narrowed my eyes. You mean I need to contribute more? What about Jason? My dad cleared his throat. Jason is going through a rough patch right now, and we're trying to help him get back on his feet. I almost laughed. Get back on his feet? The guy has never even stood up to begin with. He doesn't work, he doesn't help around the house, and he eats enough for 3 people. Mia glared at me. You're so selfish. You have a good job, and you can afford it. Jason is just trying to figure things out. I looked at my parents. So let me get this straight. You're raising my rent to $1,200 a month so that you can subsidize Jason's lifestyle? My dad gave me the classic dad disappointment look. It's not just about Jason. We're a family, and we help each other out. I clenched my jaw. Funny, I don't see him helping anyone but himself. My mom sighed. If you don't like it, you're free to find somewhere else to live. That was the moment I decided. Fine, I would. That night, I started looking at apartments. The next day, I put down a deposit on a nice 1-bedroom across town. It was $1,300 a month, only $100 more than what my parents wanted to charge me, and I wouldn't have to deal with Jason. 2 weeks later, I packed my things and told my parents I was moving out. My dad seemed surprised. My mom looked hurt. Mia just scoffed. Wow, so you'd rather waste money on rent somewhere else than help your own family, she sneered. I laughed. Mia, I was already helping. The problem is, I was also funding your lazy boyfriend's lifestyle. And I'm not doing that anymore. Jason, who had barely spoken to me in months, suddenly perked up. Yo, dude, you don't have to be like that. It's just temporary. I looked him dead in the eye. You've been figuring things out for 3 years, Jason. If my parents want to enable you, that's their choice. But I'm done. And with that, I left. At first, my parents thought I'd come crawling back. My mom sent me guilt-trippy texts about how the house felt empty without me. My dad called once and said he hoped I'd reconsider. Then came Mia's real motive. They wanted money. Mia texted me, saying, "Hey, since you have your own place now, can you send mom and dad like $500 a month? They're struggling with bills." Oh, so now they needed my help? I replied, they wouldn't be struggling if they weren't covering for Jason. Maybe it's time he starts pulling his weight. She sent a long, angry paragraph about how I was being a bad son and selfish. I didn't reply. A month later, I found out Jason still wasn't working. In fact, he had convinced my parents to let him and Mia move into my old room. My parents were now covering everything for them, and it backfired spectacularly. Because 2 months later, my parents finally reached their breaking point. Jason was running up their grocery bills, electricity bills, and even borrowing money from them. My dad finally snapped and told Jason he had to get a job or move out. Jason, predictably, refused. So my parents told him to leave. Mia, being the ever-loyal girlfriend, went with him. Within a few weeks, I got a call from my mom. She sounded exhausted. "We messed up," she admitted. "We shouldn't have put so much on you. Jason was just taking advantage of us." I sighed. "Yeah, I know. Do you think you could come over for dinner sometime?" she asked hesitantly. I considered it. Then, I agreed. Because even though my parents had made a terrible mistake, they were still my family. And maybe, just maybe, they'd finally learned their lesson. Mia and Jason? Well, they moved into a tiny apartment, and surprise, surprise, Jason still wasn't working. Mia eventually broke up with him after realizing she was the only one paying bills. And me? I was thriving in my new place, enjoying my independence. My parents and I slowly rebuilt our relationship, on my terms this time. And the best part? I was no longer funding Jason's freeloading lifestyle, and it felt amazing.